One of the favorite questions Indians love to ask people of marriageable age is "Shadi kab karoge?" Meaning, when are you getting married? From our elders to our siblings, from our friends to our colleagues, everybody just adores this question. And I guess all youngsters have to answer it. Coming from this big fat Indian family, weddings are a favorite in my house. And I, for sure, am a big fan of all the glitz and the razzle dazzle that comes with each and every wedding. As far as my memory serves, my uncle's wedding was the first one that I got a chance to experience wholly. I was just 10 back then. The idea that love is cherished with such grandeur and celebrated with people who will witness this beautiful union was something to dote on. My fascination with weddings, my inclination towards the subject of marriage indeed knew no bounds. I wanted to get married too. But then I did grow up, outgrowing my bubble and shattering the cozy boundaries of my naive thinking. And then these dots connected, which spoke of insecurity, uncertainty, and indifference of people around me. Imagine your decade younger niece being asked this question, which definitely bothered her like it does to most people. But really, does it? I was never asked this question. Being a gay man, no one ever considered this possibility for me in my near future. Now imagine being in your 30s and never being asked anything remotely related to weddings or marriage. I wonder which bothers more, being asked the question or not being asked the question. A few years ago, one of my best friends got married. His wedding was a wedding to dream of. Invitations were being sent. Bring your plus one, it said. But the twist was, my plus one was not invited. I was startled to know the reason, and it baffled me as to a legally binding contract can be more important than a 9-year-long relationship. More hurt than angry, I realized that homosexual couples are treated with far more discrimination as compared to the heterosexual couples. I did confront my friend though. He said, and I quote, "Who knows if you guys will be together after a few years? Whereas these guys, they are married. They will be together." Irony is, one of these so-called eternally bound couples did separate. And yes, it is sad, but you get it right. Someone who knew both me and my partner closely made me feel that my relationship was not valid. My friends, though accepted my relationship, did not respect my relationship because it was not sanctioned by law. This brings me to a crucial subject, that it's not just people who discriminate against the LGBTIQA couples. And it's definitely not just a social construct. The law discriminates too. Same-sex marriages are not legal in my country, hence depriving me and millions others like me of the privileges it brings. Let us take a moment to understand what marriage is or what really makes it so important. Marriage is a starting point for a new family, and a family is a cherished blessing in itself. It's a place where one gets to be oneself. It's a place where people might like or not like each other, but never once fail to love one another. So what is the harm in wanting it? Right? Marriage brings stability. It celebrates and cherishes love in a way most other forms of relationships fail to. And I staunchly believe that no one, heterosexual or homosexual, should be deprived of this right. And that is the reason why we, and when I say we, I am boldly taking stand on the behalf of entire LGBTIQA community. Why we want the choice to family. Why limit this beautiful concept of family to just a husband and a wife and their kids? Why can't it be partners and their kids? Why can't it just be partners who love and care for one another? Why can't it be friends who wish to live together? We need to open our arms to a new concept, rather than stubbornly castigating a new perspective. After all, how will a society survive if it fails to evolve? When we live in a society, most things get lost between the inevitable wrestle between what the society thinks and what the law says. It's always better to divide and conquer. And it might as well take eons before society boldly starts accepting same-sex couples. But we've got to start somewhere, right? We aim to look upon and hope for the day when two men or women holding hands or embracing each other are not looked upon by passerbys. People should not act strangely when they see this. We hope that people do not bother them or tease them, or not for a moment act strangely, or not wonder what kind of relationship these people have, or what kind of things they do in the privacy of their bedroom, and hoping that people would not question their authenticity. What a jolly good world that would be. For a couple to claim legality in India, the marriage is supposed to be registered under Religion-Based Marriage Acts, Special Marriage Act, or Foreign Marriage Act. The law so far denies to amend either of these to accommodate homosexual couples. Now, some people might say, might as well pass a new bill. But this is something to know. The judiciary has rights to amend already sanctioned laws. It, however, does not have the right to form new laws. So this huge burden falls upon able yet tiny shoulders of people of our democratic country to approach a parliament to pass a new bill, if only things were so easy. Now some people might say, what is the need for marriage when you can have a live-in relationship now that section 377 is scratched off? Most millennial couples I know would rather prefer a live-in relationship to marriage. But this preference has come after years of experiences with marriage. However, we gay couples never got a chance to experience it, so we cannot decide on the better of it. It all comes down to the availability of choice. And this is just a surface we are toying with. If we actually dig deeper, legal status can redefine same-sex marriages. Let me give you an example. Consider two women who are in relationship. Both of them from a middle class background, both of them earning now, both of them unmarried. They understand the need of financial stability and its maintenance in the near future. Were they married, they would have the spousal benefits while filing tax returns, while adopting a child, while buying and inheriting property, and no one would question their legitimacy. Now consider two women in a relationship. One dependent on other financially and unmarried. Will the dependent partner have legal rights to anything that belongs to the other? Transfer of pension, inheritance of property, custody and welfare of the adopted child. And most importantly, the association as a kin. The need to dig deeper lies even on realistic ground. I would most definitely not want someone else to take decision if my partner gets hospitalized and bedridden. I would most definitely want to have the right to know what's best for him and act on it. Now, I won't claim that I want to get married, but I might as well have the free will to identify and act on it. What is the point of living in a free nation if you cannot be completely free of these shackles? Now, let me tell you what all of us can do. However far-reaching and difficult this journey of love may be, we can all make a difference by making little changes. Changes that won't affect us personally, but might make a huge difference on the society as a whole. Let us begin small. Let us smile and wave at gay couples. Let us ask them how they met. Let us ask them what their story is. Let us ask them whether they prefer long walks or hiking. Let us tell them how good they look together. Let us tell them how they complement each other. In short, let us treat LGBTIQA couples as any other couple. Let us begin with empathy and not curiosity. Let us identify them as people, and people are beautiful if you get to know them. Let us finally start asking, Shadi kab karoge?